One quiet evening, I caught a shadow sneaking into my garden. To my surprise, it was an alien woman, trembling as she quietly picked vegetables from my plants. When I confronted her, she looked me in the eyes and begged, "Please, my children are starving." In that moment, I realized this wasn't theft, it was survival. What would you do if a stranger from another world showed up at your doorstep, desperate and vulnerable? As she sat at my kitchen table, sipping the water I had poured for her, I watched her closely. Her fingers trembled slightly, and her eyes darted nervously to the window, as if she feared being seen or caught. The dim light in the kitchen cast soft shadows across her face, highlighting the fatigue etched into every line. "I need to understand," I said gently, breaking the silence. "Where exactly did you come from? What happened to your world?" She hesitated for a moment, her eyes clouding with sorrow. "My home is a planet called Valira," she began softly. "It was once a beautiful place, lush with forests and oceans. But war came, not just between nations, but between factions within our own people. The planet was torn apart by conflict. Food became scarce. Safe places disappeared." Her voice cracked, and I saw tears pooling in those large dark eyes. "Many of us were forced to flee, to escape on ships not meant for so many. We lost everything, homes, friends, family." She swallowed hard. "I was lucky to get away with my children. But the journey was long, and we arrived here weak and starving." I felt a lump rise in my throat. To imagine fleeing your home, leaving everything familiar behind, to risk unknown dangers across the stars, all for the hope of survival, it was almost too much to grasp. "What about your children? Where are they now?" I asked quietly. "In hiding nearby," she whispered. "I had to come alone. They cannot walk far, and we must avoid detection. This place, your garden, it was the closest source of food I could find." I glanced outside, thinking about the little garden patch I had lovingly tended for months. It was small, sure, just enough to feed myself and maybe share with a neighbor. But now I saw it differently. It was a lifeline, a fragile thread connecting this stranger and her children to survival. "Would you like to meet them?" she asked hesitantly. I nodded, my curiosity and compassion stronger than any fear. "Yes. I want to see them." She led me carefully through the back door and down a narrow path behind the house. The moonlight was soft, casting silver shadows on the ground. As we approached a cluster of dense bushes, I could hear faint, muffled sounds, quiet breathing, soft whimpers. There, nestled beneath the leaves and branches, were three small figures. They looked fragile, thinner than any children I had ever seen, their skin pale and smooth like their mother's. Their eyes were wide and curious, reflecting a strange mixture of fear and hope. The eldest, a boy who couldn't have been more than 7, looked up at me with cautious eyes. Beside him were 2 younger children, a girl and a boy, no more than 3 or 4 years old. The children were wrapped in threadbare blankets, their bodies shivering in the cool night air. I crouched down to their level and smiled gently. "Hello. I'm a friend." The boy blinked, then slowly reached out his hand. The mother placed her hand protectively on his shoulder. "They have been without proper food for days," she explained. "They are weak." I nodded, feeling an ache in my chest. The reality of their situation was clearer than ever now. These weren't just stories, these were real lives at stake. "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" I asked. She looked away, shame and fear mixed in her expression. "I was afraid. Afraid you would call the authorities. Afraid they would take my children away." I took a deep breath. "I won't do that. Not unless you want me to." Her eyes locked onto mine, searching for sincerity. "Thank you," she whispered. We stayed there for a while, the night enveloping us in quiet calm. I wished I could do more. My mind raced. What could I offer these people? I wasn't rich or powerful. I had only a modest home and a small garden. But maybe that was enough. Maybe it was a start. Back inside, I made a simple meal with what I had: boiled potatoes, fresh herbs, and some bread. The alien mother helped prepare it, her hands moving quickly despite her weariness. When we returned to the hidden spot, the children's eyes lit up at the sight of food. The eldest boy took a piece of bread with tentative fingers, then began to eat slowly, savoring each bite. The younger children clung to their mother but also nibbled carefully. For a few moments, the fear in their eyes softened, replaced by something fragile: hope. As they ate, I sat back and watched, feeling a strange warmth spread through me. Here were beings from another world, so different yet so alike in their need for safety, nourishment, and love. "I have never seen a mother fight like you," I said softly to her after a while. "You are brave." She smiled faintly. "I do what I must.
For them.
The days that followed were a whirlwind of quiet cooperation. The alien woman, who I learned was called Lyra, became a constant presence in my life. We communicated slowly, teaching each other words and gestures. Her English was broken but improving, and I learned bits of her language from her. Each day, I brought food to the hidden children, and they grew stronger. Lyra helped me tend the garden, her touch gentle but skilled. It amazed me how adaptable she was, how quickly she learned the rhythms of Earth's soil and plants. But despite the small victories, a shadow hung over us. Lyra was always looking over her shoulder, fearful of being discovered. She spoke of patrols, scanners, and government agents who would not hesitate to separate her from her children. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, she told me about her home planet again, more details this time. Valira was a place of harmony once, she said, voice tinged with nostalgia. We believed technology and nature could coexist. But greed and fear poisoned everything. The war came not because of differences, but because of fear of losing what little we had. She looked at me, eyes glistening. I do not want my children to grow up in fear. Here, we might have a chance. I reached out and took her hand, surprised at how warm it felt despite her cool skin.
We'll do what we can, I promised.
But that promise weighed heavy on me. I had no idea what doing what we can truly meant. The world outside was full of dangers I could not see or understand. What if someone found out? What if they took the children away? What if I was risking my own safety? Those questions haunted me as I lay awake at night. One particular night, I woke to the sound of movement outside my window. Heart pounding, I peered out to see shadowy figures moving in the darkness.
Panic gripped me.
Had someone come looking for Lyra and her children? I quietly woke Lyra and whispered the warning. She gathered her children quickly, her face pale but resolute.
We must move, she said softly.
Before I could protest, she was already leading her small family into the woods behind my house, vanishing like ghosts into the shadows. I stood frozen, helpless, watching their silhouettes disappear beneath the canopy of trees. The next morning, my garden was quiet and empty. Lyra and her children were gone. The days stretched on after Lyra and her children vanished into the woods behind my house. I felt an emptiness I couldn't shake, like a piece of my heart had walked away with them. The garden seemed strangely silent now, every leaf whispering reminders of the fragile family that had briefly touched my life. But I knew it wasn't over. I couldn't forget the fear in Lyra's eyes that night, the urgency in her voice as she fled with her children through the darkness. Something was chasing them, something dangerous. And if I wanted to help, I had to act. I started by searching the nearby woods every day, calling softly for them. I left food hidden in places I thought they might return to. Every rustle in the trees, every snap of a twig made my heart jump.
Was it them?
Or the pursuers? Then, late one afternoon, as I wandered deeper into the forest than before, I heard it, a soft crying barely audible. My breath caught in my throat.
Lyra! I whispered.
A small figure emerged from behind a thick tree trunk. It was the eldest child, the boy from before. His face was pale, eyes wide with both relief and fear. They're coming, he said in a trembling voice. Mother is hiding with the others, but they are close. I helped him to my side and gave him the food I had brought. He ate quickly, then whispered about the dark ships scanning the skies, the patrols combing the land.
They want us gone, he said simply.
They say we are not safe here. I felt a wave of anger rise inside me. Who were these people to decide the fate of a desperate mother and her children? Who had the right to hunt down refugees who had escaped war and death? I made a decision. I wouldn't let fear rule anymore. If Lyra and her children were to survive, they needed a safe place, and I would find it. That night, I crafted a plan. I contacted an old friend, Maya, who worked with a secretive humanitarian group. They specialized in helping displaced people, but this was unlike anything she had heard before. When I told her about Lyra and the children, about aliens hiding in the woods, desperate and hunted, she was skeptical but agreed to help.
We'll do what we can, she said. But you have to keep them hidden.
No one can know. We arranged a meeting place deep in the forest, a small cabin Maya's team had secured. It was secluded, off the grid, and surrounded by dense trees, perfect for hiding. The next morning, I returned to the woods with supplies and a plan to lead Lyra and her children to safety. Hours later, as the sun began to set, I spotted a faint glow from a small campfire hidden in a clearing. There they were, Lyra, her 3 children, and a few others who had joined them on the run. They looked exhausted but determined. When Lyra saw me, her eyes shone with a mixture of hope and relief. You came back, she said softly.
I promised I would, I replied.
With careful steps, we moved through the trees toward the cabin. The children clung to their mother, but their faces brightened when they saw the safe shelter. For the first time in days, I saw a flicker of peace. But peace was fragile. That night, as we settled in the cabin, the quiet was shattered by distant sounds, engines, scanners, voices. The patrols were close. We had to act fast. Maya's team worked quickly to disguise the cabin and set up signals to warn us of any approaching danger. Lyra held her children close, whispering promises that they would soon be safe. "We will not let them take you," she said fiercely. I watched her and realized that her strength was deeper than I had imagined. She wasn't just a frightened refugee, she was a warrior, a mother fighting with every ounce of her being. Over the next few days, we moved often, never staying in one place for long. I learned more about Lyra's people, how they communicated through subtle gestures and emotions, how their bodies adapted to different atmospheres, how their culture was rich with art and music but shattered by conflict. Despite the fear and exhaustion, moments of joy emerged. The children laughed as they played in the forest, their laughter a fragile but powerful reminder of life's resilience. One afternoon, as we rested by a stream, Lyra turned to me. "Thank you," she said simply. "You have given us hope." I smiled, though inside I worried. Hope was a fragile thing in a world that often showed no mercy. Then came the worst moment. One evening, as we made camp near a river, the patrols found us. Red lights pierced the night, and loud voices shouted commands in a language I didn't understand. The team scrambled to hide the children, but the patrols advanced fast. In the chaos, I was separated from Lyra. I watched helplessly as they surrounded her, their weapons trained on her small family. "Please," I shouted. "They are refugees. They mean no harm." But my words fell on deaf ears. What happened next changed everything. Just as the patrol leader ordered the children to be taken away, a powerful voice boomed through the clearing. "We have no quarrel with these refugees." It was Maya, stepping forward with several armed allies. She negotiated fiercely, arguing that these beings were innocent victims of war, deserving protection. After tense hours, the patrols reluctantly withdrew, leaving Lyra and her children free, for now. In the aftermath, we knew the danger wasn't over. The world outside was still hostile, still watching. But something had changed. Lyra's story had touched more people than I ever imagined. Support began to grow quietly, safe houses, secret aid, and whispers of acceptance. For the first time, I dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, this alien mother and her children could find a place to call home.